She said, "It's just Instagram likes. Don't be so insecure." I replied, "You're right." Then I started posting the photos she took of me with someone else. When her friends commented, "You upgraded," she finally stopped scrolling. Throwaway account, because my ex's friends still stalk my main. So yeah, I, 31M, dated Lila, 29F, for just over 2 years. She was smart, confident, that kind of girl who walks into a room and makes people look up. At first, she was everything I thought I wanted: ambitious, quick-witted, unapologetically herself. She was the type who could talk to anyone, and she loved attention. I didn't mind that, not at first. I liked that she was social. I liked that she had her own life. But then her definition of social started crossing lines that, frankly, most people in a relationship would find disrespectful. It started with comments under other guys' selfies, heart emojis, fire, fire, fire. The occasional "you look good." Then she'd tag me in memes about clingy boyfriends and laugh it off when I asked why. I remember the first time I brought it up. We were at her apartment, sitting on her couch, some Netflix show playing in the background. She was scrolling on her phone, double-tapping photos like she was being paid per like. I said, "Do you think maybe that's a bit much? You don't have to stop, but it feels weird." She didn't even look up. "It's just Instagram likes," she said. "Don't be so insecure." That word, insecure, stuck to my ribs like a stone, because I'm not the jealous type. I'm an engineer, rational, patient. I overthink everything before reacting. But she made me question whether I was just too old-fashioned to get how people date now. So I dropped it. But over time, her posts changed too. More selfies. More girls' night out photos that looked like they belonged on a dating app. One caption actually said, "A reminder that being wanted is not the same as being owned, kiss marked." That one stung, especially when I realized she'd posted it after a small argument we had about how she'd been DMing with some guy from her gym. Still, I let it go. I thought, she's just being expressive. It's not worth fighting over pixels. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. Every time I tried to talk to her about it, she'd turn it into a joke. "You're so serious all the time," she'd say, laughing, scrolling past my discomfort. "Relax. It's just social media. It's not like I'm cheating." The thing is, that line between attention and validation is razor thin. And I could see she was starting to need the latter more than anything else. Then came the weekend that changed everything. We were supposed to go to her friend's engagement party together. She texted last minute that she'd meet me there because she was running late. She showed up an hour and a half later, hair perfect, makeup flawless, and acting like nothing was wrong. Throughout the night, she was glued to her phone. Every few minutes, it buzzed. She'd smile, glance at it, and then casually flip it over. At one point, her friend, who was a little tipsy, leaned over and said, "Lila's DMs are wild, man. You must be a saint to date her." And just like that, the whole illusion cracked. I smiled, nodded, and played it cool for the rest of the night. But in my head, I was already done. When we got home, she kissed me on the cheek, said, "You're quiet tonight," and went to bed. I stood in the living room for a while, just watching the city lights out the window. And for the first time, I realized I didn't feel angry anymore. Just tired. The next morning, she was back on her phone, posting a mirror pic with the caption, "You don't lose a real one by being yourself." Nail polish light skin tone. That was the moment I decided I wasn't going to argue. No more explanations. No more boundaries that needed to be justified. Just quiet action. I started distancing myself. Slowly, carefully. I stopped liking her posts. Stopped replying instantly to her texts. Stopped asking what she was doing when she went out. And I started working out again. Reading more, going out with my own friends, including her cousin, Sophie, who I'd met through Lila months earlier. Sophie was kind, chill, the complete opposite of her cousin. And the irony? Lila had always bragged about how close they were. Sophie didn't flirt. She just talked. About books, travel, the kind of deep, grounding stuff that made me remember who I used to be before the chaos. It started as harmless conversation. But as Lila grew more distant, Sophie became this quiet anchor. And then one night, I realized I wasn't in love with Lila anymore. I was just attached to the idea of fixing something that had been broken for a long time. So I stopped trying. And when Lila laughed at another one of my boring questions about trust and said, "It's just Instagram, don't be so insecure," I smiled, looked her right in the eyes, and said, "You're right." She didn't know what that meant yet, but she would. Soon. After that night, the night I told her, "You're right," something in me went completely quiet. Not cold, not bitter, just still, like when a storm finally runs out of rain. I didn't break up with her right away. I didn't even change the way I spoke. I just stopped giving her the version of me that begged to be understood. I stopped reacting. When she posted another mirror selfie captioned, "Feeling cute, might ignore your texts later kiss mark." I didn't reply. When she sent me a TikTok about emotionally unavailable boyfriends, I just left her on read. The funny thing? The less I chased, the more she tried. She'd text more often, send random pictures, ask what I was doing. But I wasn't playing that game anymore. Instead, I started focusing on myself, not the gym bro revenge arc, but genuine rebuilding. I realized how small my world had become around her validation. So I started posting again, my own photos, my travels, my work projects. At first, nothing major. Just me hiking, having coffee with friends, sitting by the lake. Then one weekend, Sophie, her cousin, invited me to a photography event. She was learning portrait photography and wanted someone to practice on. I agreed. We spent hours walking around the city, laughing, taking shots near old brick walls and parks. She made me look comfortable in front of a camera, which I hadn't been in years. She had this calm energy, no judgment, no pretending. That night, she sent me the photos. They were stunning, natural. I looked genuinely happy. I posted one, captioned it. Sometimes peace looks better than perfection. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't mention Sophie, but Lila saw it within minutes. She replied with a text. "Who took that photo?" I didn't answer. 10 minutes later. "Wow. So now you're into photos too." And then, "Okay, nice. Glad you're finding yourself." It was the kind of passive-aggressive sarcasm she used when she felt like control was slipping. A week later, I posted another photo. This one, I was smiling, genuinely, sitting in a cafe. Someone else's reflection was visible in the window, but only faintly. If you knew, you knew. The comments started rolling in. Friends saying things like, "You look different, happier," and "that glow up is personal." And then Sophie commented, "Still can't believe you hated being photographed. Look at you now." That one hit home, because Lila definitely saw it. She didn't text me for 2 days. Then she finally messaged, "Is that my cousin commenting on your post?" I didn't reply. An hour later, "You're unbelievable." 2 hours later, "So this is what you meant by you're right, huh?" I didn't know her an explanation anymore. Because she was right. I wasn't insecure. I was done. That weekend, her mom invited me to a small family dinner. She and I had always been on good terms. She said, "You're still part of the family, no matter what happens between you two." I didn't know Sophie would be there too. When I walked in, Lila froze. She looked from me to Sophie and back again, her face unreadable. The air got thick real fast. We all sat down, pretending everything was normal. Her uncle cracked jokes, her dad poured wine, and I just played along politely. But every few minutes, I could feel her eyes burning into me. Halfway through dinner, Sophie leaned toward me and whispered, "You okay?" I nodded, smiling slightly, and that small, genuine connection was enough to make Lila snap. She slammed her fork down and said, "Are you too serious right now?" Everyone went quiet. Her dad blinked. "Lila, what's going on?" She glared at me. "You're posting pictures she took? You think I wouldn't notice? You're both disgusting." Sophie's face turned red. "Lila, it's not." I interrupted, calm as ever. "It's okay, Sophie. She's just realizing something." Lila looked at me, furious. Realizing what? I leaned back in my chair, smiled just a little, and said, "What not being married really means." The room went silent again. Only the faint clink of her wine glass as she set it down too hard. Her dad cleared his throat awkwardly. Her mom changed the subject. Lila stood up, grabbed her bag, and walked out. No goodbye, no scene. Just the quiet footsteps of someone who finally understood the rules she'd written herself. After dinner, Sophie apologized a dozen times, but I told her it wasn't her fault. Because it wasn't. Lila wanted freedom. She just never thought she'd see what it looks like when someone else uses it too. Update 1. It's been 3 months since that dinner. I haven't seen Lila since. Not in person, anyway. But her digital shadow lingers everywhere. Quiet likes, accidental story views, mutual friends mentioning her name like a ghost they're afraid to disturb. The night after that dinner, she texted me for the first time in weeks. Just one line. You didn't have to humiliate me like that. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. You humiliated yourself. I just stopped covering for you. She left it on scene. And for a while, that was it. But people like Lila don't disappear quietly. They test the waters. They circle back, one breadcrumb at a time. 2 weeks later, she liked 3 of my old posts in a row, the kind of move that screams, I'm still thinking about you. Then she posted a quote on her story. Sometimes you lose the moon while chasing the stars. I didn't respond, but I knew who it was for. Sophie told me later that Lila had been asking about me. Apparently, she regretted how things ended and just wanted to talk. Sophie was careful. She didn't take sides, but even she admitted it felt like Lila wasn't sorry for losing me. Just sorry she couldn't control me anymore. The funny thing? The old me would have jumped at the chance to talk, to fix it, to understand. But the new me didn't feel anger or longing, just peace. Because once you've seen someone's truth, there's no going back to the illusion. One Friday evening, I was at a small rooftop bar downtown. City lights shimmered off the glass, laughter floating between tables. Sophie was there too, along with a few friends. We weren't dating, not really. It was complicated, but in a way that wasn't toxic. We just enjoyed each other's company without forcing anything. At one point, I went to the railing for some air, phone buzzing in my pocket. It was Lila. I'm outside. I turned, scanning the street below, and there she was. Same dark hair, same confident posture, but her eyes told a different story now. Tired, hesitant, human. I went down to meet her. Hey, she said softly. Can we talk? I nodded. 5 minutes. She took a deep breath. I've been doing a lot of thinking. About us. About how I treated you. I stayed quiet. She kept talking. About how she'd been jealous, insecure, stupid. How she'd only wanted to feel wanted, even if it meant validation from strangers online. And then she said, when I saw those pictures you posted, I realized you finally looked like the person I fell for. But without me. Her voice cracked slightly. Do you still think about me? I paused. For a second, I remembered everything. The laughter, the late-night talks, the plans we never kept. But nostalgia isn't love. It's just a memory trying to stay relevant. So I told her the truth. Sometimes, but only to remind myself how far I've come. She blinked, looking like she wanted to say something. Anything, to rewrite the moment. But she didn't. She just nodded slowly, eyes glassy under the streetlight. I thought that was the end, until she glanced toward the rooftop above us and saw Sophie through the glass. She's here, Lila asked quietly. I didn't lie. Yeah. Her jaw tightened. So that's it. You just moved on like it was nothing. I sighed. You told me we weren't married, remember? I just took your advice. Her lips trembled, the irony cutting deeper than she'd expected. She whispered something under her breath. I think it was, I didn't mean it, and then walked away. No dramatic tears, no scene. Just the quiet sound of her heels fading into the city noise. When I went back upstairs, Sophie looked at me curiously. She came, didn't she? I nodded. Yeah. Everything okay? I smiled faintly. For the first time, yeah. That night, as I scrolled through my feed, I saw that Lila had deleted half her photos. The flirty captions, the selfies, the quotes. All gone. And then she posted one new photo. A sunset over the city skyline. Captioned, some lessons come after it's too late. No tags. No context. Just quiet regret. I didn't like it. Didn't comment. Didn't save it. I just scrolled past it, the digital equivalent of closing a chapter for good. Over the next month, life kept moving. Work picked up. Sophie and I started spending more time together. Dinners, photography trips, laughter that didn't feel forced. For the first time in years, I didn't need validation to feel alive. I was just happy. And one evening, when Sophie showed me a new set of pictures, candid shots of me laughing in the rain, she said something that stuck with me. You don't pose anymore. She was right. Because real peace doesn't perform. That's when I realized the final truth about Lila. She wasn't the villain of my story. She was the test. The reminder of what happens when you mistake attention for affection. And I passed. Because sometimes, growing up means learning that silence speaks louder than revenge ever could. Final update. It's been almost a year since everything ended with Lila. Funny how time doesn't heal everything. It just makes the pain irrelevant. I hadn't thought about her much, not really. Life had gotten full again. Sophie and I, we never labeled anything, but it grew naturally. She didn't ask for attention. She gave peace. She didn't chase validation. She gave warmth. And the best part? I never had to explain myself to her. Work was thriving too. My photography page had blown up a bit. Clients, collaborations, even a small feature in a travel magazine. The same camera that once captured Lila's best angles was now capturing life. Unposed, unfiltered, unchained. But the past has a way of knocking on your door when you least expect it. Or, in modern terms, tagging you in a post. It was a Sunday morning, soft rain against the window, coffee steaming beside my laptop. I opened Instagram to check messages, and the first thing I saw made me freeze. Lila had tagged me in a post. Her caption read, "Sometimes you don't realize what you had until it's gone. I'll always be grateful for the person who taught me how to love, even if I didn't know how to love them back." Attached was an old picture of us, the one I took of her laughing under fairy lights, my arm barely visible around her waist. A perfect shot, a life frozen in time. Within minutes, my DMs flooded. Mutual friends, old coworkers, even my mom. "Did you see Lila's post? Are you two talking again? She sounds like she still loves you." Sophie saw it too. I knew because she didn't text. She just sent me a photo of my mug on her kitchen counter with the caption, "Coffee's ready if you need a break from social media." I smiled. That's who she was. No jealousy, no drama, just calm. I took a sip of my coffee, opened Instagram again, and stared at Lila's post one more time. Her followers were eating it up. Heart emojis. "You guys were perfect. Hope you find your way back." And for a moment, I wondered if she'd actually changed, if maybe, finally, she understood what she'd lost. Then I noticed something that made me laugh quietly. At the very end of her caption, hidden between emojis, was a line she'd used before. "If you love something, set it free. If it comes back, it's meant to be." That line used to work on me. Not anymore. Because I'd already learned, love that needs to come back was never real in the first place. So instead of replying, I just shared one of my own posts that morning. A black and white photo of me and Sophie walking hand in hand along the coast. The caption was simple. "Peace doesn't ask for attention." No tags, no shade, no names. But people got it. By the end of the day, Lila deleted her post. 2 weeks later, I ran into her again. The universe really does have a sense of humor. It was at a charity art show downtown. I'd been invited to showcase my photography. She walked in wearing a black dress, elegant, poised, and strangely quiet. Her confidence was still there, but her spark had dulled. We locked eyes across the room. She hesitated, then approached. "Your work is beautiful," she said softly. "Thank you," I replied. She looked around at the framed prints, cityscapes, sunsets, candid smiles. "You finally made it," she whispered. "I always knew you would." I smiled politely. "No, you didn't. But that's okay." She swallowed hard. Can we talk? Just for a minute." I gestured toward the crowd. "I'm working right now, Lila." She nodded, looking down. "Right. Of course." Then she added, almost under her breath, "You really did become warm again." I met her eyes one last time and said, "Yeah, just not for you." And then I walked away. No anger, no satisfaction, just closure. That night, after the event, Sophie and I drove out of the city. No destination, just open roads and music humming softly through the speakers. She reached across the console and laced her fingers through mine. "Long day?" she asked. I nodded. "Full circle." We pulled over near a hill overlooking the city lights, a view I used to dream about sharing with someone who understood silence. Now I finally had. Sophie leaned her head on my shoulder. "You're quiet." "I'm just thinking," I said, "about how different love feels when it's not a performance." She smiled. "That's because it's real now." And in that moment, watching the city flicker beneath us, I realized I didn't need revenge, validation, or closure from the past. Because peace doesn't need an audience. It just exists. Lila never reached out again after that. Not directly, anyway. Every now and then, I'd notice her watching my stories or liking one of my photos weeks after I posted it. But it didn't bother me. She was a chapter, an important one, sure, but still just a chapter. And I'd finished the book. The last time I heard about her, she'd moved to another city and started her own social media agency. A mutual friend said she seemed happier, more grounded. I hope that's true, because I don't hate her. I don't even resent her. If anything, I'm thankful for every moment that broke me, for every silence that forced me to listen to myself, and for every goodbye that made room for something better. Because in the end, losing her didn't make me colder. It made me human again.